Welcome and thank you for attending our technology event today, Managing Documents While Working from Home. Brian and I are excited to be partnering with Eon Computers and Kyocera about the information we are presenting today. Our two-phase approach in this presentation will help you to better understand everyday IT solutions and practical hardware and software solutions for copying, printing, scanning, and document filing, storage, and retrieval while working in a remote environment.
Thanks, Trina. We're here in the SVOE showroom and headquarters in Verona, Virginia, where we have over 70 systems. You can probably see some of them behind me on display and ready to go. As a multi-line dealer of Ricoh, Canon, Xerox, HP, and of course, Kyocera is going to be our highlighted dealer today. We truly can find the best solution for any size office, whether you're at home, working remotely, or actually in your main office.
We are happy to introduce our first presenter for today, Ian McRae, owner and president of Eon Computers on IT and networking solutions, to begin this presentation. Take it away, Ian.
Thanks a lot, Trina. Now, I am at my home office, and I prepared for the past year for this presentation. You can see I grew out my beard. I've got my sweats on here. I did really see the stylist for my hair this morning. I've been working from home, like many of us, for the past year intensively, and I've learned a lot of things along that journey that I'd like to share with you today. So our agenda today, we're going to go over the things that I've learned, and then Robbie's going to do a demo of how we can actually scan things into our web-based applications, and then we'll wrap up. Now, this is going to be a presentation where you can play along as you watch. So we have a remote work readiness evaluation online. You can follow the link on the screen, and I'll present this again at the end. Or you can use your smartphone and jump right into it by scanning that QR code on the screen. It's going to give you a survey that can help assess your readiness for remote work. So I'll give this just a moment for everybody to take it down. Again, it'll be at the end of the presentation. All right, moving right along. Let's dive into some of the business considerations of working remotely from home. I'm going to talk about those first because they're fairly substantial, and then I'll dive into some of the technology. So workflow is really critical. I think it's probably the first and most serious business consideration. Most of us, have developed our businesses over the years with workflows that really require some in-person work, be it legal subpoenas or checks coming into the office, or just people collaborating by overhearing a client on the phone and then offering some coaching on the spot. A lot of the workflows that have developed really are not very adaptable to remote work. And this is something that's been probably the biggest challenge for us, even an IT company, for really getting all of that figured out. Because we had grown our business up since 1997 with a lot of workflows that were hands-on. The next consideration, and this is one that we face in IT and a lot of our clients face as well, is compliance. HR policies, HIPAA, PCI compliance for the credit card industry. All of these types of compliance rules, they require us to have our policies written in a way that keep us safe. We all have the little, thumb drives and other things. Is personal information getting left at home? We've got to outline all of this in our HR policies, as well as making sure that our technology is properly positioned for this work from home reality. The next is accountability. When you're in the office, if you're an employer and you're paying for time, as I am for our team of 25 or so individuals at Eon Computers, you can see people at their desks and working. You don't always have that same level of assurance that work is getting done. We see it. Sometimes people call us at 10 in the morning to ask questions about starting their workday. And we know that they're not really showing up for work as they would have if they were working at the office. So that's something that more and more employers are asking us, how do I know that our people are showing up? And we do have technical solutions about that that we can get into. The next is the nature of collaboration. So we're collaborating today on Zoom, but not every type of collaboration is well formatted to some of the tools that are available. This is one that we're going to be really diving into on the presentation today. And the next is around the value and the job satisfaction. So the value for the employer and the job satisfaction for the employee. And it can be a challenge having the right space and the right resources for your employees to be successful from home. We'll touch on that today. And the employer needs to see that the work is getting done. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the controls. So here's a recap of some of the business considerations. And this is something that we're working with our clients to really have some regular IT planning meetings, have a quarterly IT plan, have some budgets around that, ask you some questions about how your business really works, so that we can get to the bottom of all of those categories that we just went through. Help you with writing your company HR policy so that it's remote work ready. Make sure that your tools are set up correctly. Understand the things that are unique about your business and what can adapt to remote work. So this is how we handle it at Ian Computers. We ask questions, we develop an IT plan. We're not going to go through all of that today, but it's, I think, critical to making this transition. So my journey and our journey at Ian Computers from, working in an office, here are some, pre-COVID office pictures. We were a very, in-person, hands-on company. We really enjoyed, showing up and working, in person with our clients. Of course, we, providing a fractional IT department to 40 businesses, we also had a lot of comfort working remotely. Traditionally, that was us working in our clients' offices, people working from the road, and we operated a call center and everything in the office. So we had quite a journey, but luckily we had some of the infrastructure in place. We had the servers and we'd made the investments so that our technicians that were working in the field could come in and work remotely, just like they could collaborate in the office. So it was an easier transition. Now, personally, I was fortunate to have a great space in my house to work, but that's one of the challenges that we found. We have people at all different levels in their career and in their life working for us, and not everybody has a good workspace. So this is mine, but some folks on our team, didn't have a good space at home, and we really found that we had to help them, get some office chairs or take some, some standing desk equipment home to enable them to work. Here's some other key infrastructure that I try to avoid. So don't want to turn around from my desk and play on the wrong computer. But we did have, this is my closet, my IT closet from the nice orderly closet that I had before in the office. I did have some pretty good infrastructure at home, and I am working right now to get it a little more neat. But I had high-speed internet, and I've been investing recently to actually wire my house, because a wired connection is still about 10 times faster and much more reliable than a wireless one. So that's been a really nice pickup as I'm doing more Zoom meetings and more phone calls over the internet. It's much more reliable. Got a nice view out the window here, so I'm very happy working from home. I've got my father to help look after the kids. That's a challenge for a lot of folks. So there's been a lot of investment, really going back to the days of us just being a mobile workforce in being able to work from home. So here's a picture of my desk at home. There's one of the big, copier printer things that the Kyocera team is going to be talking about. That's also helped me be successful, because I do have to print out presentations for RFPs and bids. I've got to scan stuff. And those are some of the things that I found myself going into the office to do. And at one point I just realized, it's better for me to just pick this equipment up and bring it home. It's not making sense to make this drive. So what are some of the technology considerations? This is where we're going to dive into a little more detail. And I'll want to go through a crawl, walk, run exercise with you with some of the more common techniques and explaining some of the pros and cons of each of these techniques and how to make them better. So in the crawl category, we're going to talk about phones, texting, email, shared calendars, and web meetings. These are the most common things that we see businesses implementing for their remote workforce or their mobile workforce today. Now, there can be a slow crawl or there can be a fast crawl. So many folks really, it starts breaking down with some of the basics, like even calendar and chat. So at Ian Computers, we use Microsoft Office 365. It's got Microsoft Teams, so we can have web meetings like what we're having today on Zoom. In-house, we can record those meetings. I can jump right into a meeting like I'm doing here, and I can quickly chat with the participants of the meeting without doing a camera or mic share. I can chat with them outside of the meeting on a channel. It's very handy. They can all see my calendar. It's great for having the office coordinate with me. And once you have that type of capability for your teammates at work, you can also open it up to your clients. So they can, my clients, they can go directly to a self-booking link and they can schedule a meeting with me. So everybody's right on the same page with what my schedule is, and there can be really clean, direct communication. So this is a nice, fast crawl. This really helps facilitate remote work, and sort of cuts out the confusion of the office being kind of in the middle, or people that no longer can kind of overhear or go tap me on the shoulder and say, "What's your schedule like in the afternoon?" Now, I also do a lot of calling for sales, and I find a really wide variety of outcomes when I call businesses these days. I called one this morning, and the person answering the phone said that they couldn't transfer me to the person I was trying to call because they were working from home, and they had to take a message and have the person call me back. So a lot of businesses are in that situation where they are tied to the office. The voicemails are going into the office. Or they, worse yet, they might be going into a salesperson or somebody else's cell phone where they lose control of what's going on with the call. They can't really see if calls are being answered in a timely fashion. There's very limited reporting. There's limited management. It can be very frustrating for business owners to know that things are actually working, and for people to get service when the phone system is not flexible. So the Voip phone systems today, they can be very flexible. So at Ian Computers, we use one of these Voip phone systems. We do have a help desk that's answering a high volume of calls. And the dispatcher or receptionist can actually see if one of the people who is working from home is on the phone, and then transfer the call if they're available. And then if they do transfer that call, you can see that the person is picking up. If something does go to voicemail, you can see the voicemail logs, and you can get the reporting and all of that kind of stuff. Because I do multitask a fair bit, I make calls from multiple devices, and I have a traditional desk phone just like I had at the office. I actually took my office desk phone home, and I can make all of my business calls, right from a desk phone with the same call quality that I had in the office, with the same caller ID that I had in the office. but I can also do all of that right from my computer or my mobile phone. So here I am, I'm right in my computer, I'm making phone calls. You know, we're a regional company. Those are the different remote offices that we have. So I can call, you know, as if I'm in any of our offices throughout the state. I can use that local caller ID. I can make notes. I can do all of this right from our CRM with the phone system. So this is a really fast crawl when you get some of these basic things really working smoothly, because, you know, if you can't use the phone efficiently, it's going to be really, really tough. So I want to just show some best practices here. So the next thing that's pretty basic that we all use is email. You know, I love email. I probably overuse it like everyone else. You know, we all share files and other things via email, and we know the limitations with email. We know it can be a distraction. We know that it's really challenging sometimes to search and find version control and really to stay organized. But, you know, a lot of folks are working from home these days, and they need that remote email. So what some of the challenges we also see around email is that emails might be getting saved to their home computer, which means that if they're not in a web-based system, that, you know, if that employee were to leave, you might not have the audit log of what they were working on, like you would if you had control over their computer in the office. So there's definitely some things that you want to think about strengthening your email system so that, you know, you can have a successful transition if somebody were to get promoted or to take another job. Now, we all love the web meeting platforms. I think all of our ears, you know, constantly are hearing the word Zoom. It's out there, you know, it's like tissues boxes. It's just become synonymous in our culture as a brand. But we know that Zoom can be great for facilitating meetings such as this. But you know, after the meeting is done, you know, how do we share it? It can be very awkward in Zoom. You know, we're recording this meeting, but you know, I've got to email out the recording. So you know, things like Microsoft Teams can be much better for collaboration after the fact. You can go right in. You can retrieve recordings out of the Microsoft Office 365 suite. You can share files, all of those types of things that Zoom kind of struggles with. So there's certainly some better platforms out there that you should think of to get your employees to the next level. So those are all of the really basic fundamentals that you can get, you know, strong with and get to a better place. Let's talk about some of the things that are kind of at the next tier, the walk tier. So at the walk tier, we see that people often are working to remote into the office and gain access to, you know, all of the applications, you know, the actual business applications that they use in the office, make sure that they have access to all of their files. So remoting into your work desktop, we offer a tool with Ian Computers if a client's getting support from us, where they can remote right into their office computer. This is very handy. It's great. It been helping people for years, you know, handle snow days and all this kind of stuff. But the big limitation of this is that they have to have both a office computer and a home computer, you know, 2 computers for somebody to work. So the scenario where the salesperson has a laptop and that's his only computer, you know, he's out of luck. He has nothing to remote into. So this, you know, is great for, you know, folks that do have that 2 computers set up, or the sales guy has to leave his laptop at work. It can get a little clumsy pretty quickly. It also doesn't work very well for certain things like printing. If the sales guy is remoting into his office computer and he's trying to print the big RFP and mail it off for the state bid, he may have some troubles with that. He may end up having to save as a PDF and then email it to himself. It can get a little clunky. So to overcome some of that clunkiness, sometimes people will establish a VPN. So now they have direct access into their office network. This can work very well for just working on some files, but it can become, you know, very clumsy when it comes to working with large files. So, you know, the Ian Computers accounting team, they were trying to use VPN to just run QuickBooks. And when you try to open up QuickBooks over a VPN, it just sits there and spins and spins and spins. So you have to have these types of things go through remote desktop. So we trained our accounting team to use remote desktop, then the spinning goes away. They're able to get right into their applications and work with it very quickly.
So can I ask a question, Ian?
Yes, Roger.
So if you leave the VPN and you go to this, what did you call it, remote?
Remote desktop?
Yeah, what about the security? Because, I mean, and I'm not by any stretch of the means, know a lot about this, but my understanding with VPN is that's the selling point of using VPN is, I guess, the encryption or the security that you get with that. Do you lose that, or do you still have it with the other one?
Yeah, that's a great question. You actually need both, and I'm going to share that with you in just a minute. So basically, the VPN enables you directly to talk to your office through a secure tunnel. Of course, putting it in a secure tunnel slows things down. So, you know, and most applications were designed to work in an office environment. So they're used to working maybe as much as 1,000 times faster than what you would be getting over that VPN tunnel working from home. So basically, you'll need some additional technology, which I'll talk about to speed things back up. One of the challenges with VPNs is that oftentimes what you end up having to do is you know, install a little application on your laptop, and then your users have to figure out how to load this application, how to log in. Every time they want to access the office, they've got to type in their password. And you can, being in IT, I know that often we are troubleshooting VPNs. It's a pain in the butt for users, and it ties up your users working with IT, you know, resetting passwords and figuring out, you know, which IP address should be in the box and all this kind of stuff. So if you have some folks that are serious, you know, teleworkers, and you want to really invest in their success, do what I did. Get an at-home VPN gateway. This is a device that will connect into your office network. For a couple of $100, it's going to upgrade or replace their home router, and it's going to make that VPN always be on at the network level. And it's going to allow your office's IT to ensure that home connection is secure. And that's another thing that we have run into in the past year, is we got a new client, not in the way we like them. You know, we got a new client that was completely encrypted and locked up because somebody was working from home. They clicked on a link while they were accessing office files, and it encrypted their entire network. So these types of things give you some control over those home connections, so those types of things are less likely to happen. So now when we get into this, you know, run stage, this is where, Roger, we come back to you know, getting your VPN really going at the next level. So at the next level, the remote desktop connection, you can either use this directly to a server, and you can have a remote desktop server. That's the best way of doing it. It's basically a server that's there to host your remote workers. So you can have, you know, 5, 10, you know, 100 employees going into one server. So this solves the problem that we were talking about earlier, where we have the one worker and they're needing 2 computers to use. This solves that problem. And it does it takes, you know, applications like QuickBooks or large files, databases, those types of things that you're working with, and it speeds them up. Basically, if you're running that report, and the report is compiling, you know, thousands of financial records and then giving you a sum total, instead of having to pull all of those thousands of financial records down, process them on your local computer, and then, you know, display the results, it does all of that off-site, and then it just gives you the results on your screen. It speeds things way up, and it also makes things much more reliable. And when you combine remote desktop and VPN, it also resolves 95% of your printing problems, because oftentimes these two technologies, you know, they need to work in conjunction so you can print easily from home or scan. So this is something that we do at Ian Computers. Our accounting team uses the remote desktop. The next thing in the run category is internet-based file sync tools. Tools like Dropbox, OneDrive. You know, these are great tools. They're really handy. They're really popular. Users, you know, may even be using ones that they have from home or in their personal life. I know I have some, you know, personal files in Google Drive, but be careful with these tools as well. They can be fairly expensive, and they can also leave your organization open to employees kind of walking away with the, you know, the keys to the kingdom. I remember, you know, a number of years back, we had a finance person leave Ian Computers, and we didn't realize that he was using a personal OneDrive account for a lot of things versus his business one. And we lost a lot of files. So that was with the older versions of OneDrive that were harder to manage. Newer versions are a lot easier. So you want to really make sure that you're talking with your users and you understand that they're using the business tools that you're giving them, and you're giving them good business tools. So these file share systems, they're great with small files, you know, legal contracts or things like that. But they don't do well with accounting systems, databases, large files, you know, videos, those types of things. So be careful that they don't always end up synchronizing. This is the other thing that we've seen happen, is that the tools just end up in a synchronization of death, and they're never really getting the work files uploaded to the business account. So you really have to stay on top of these tools to make sure that they are working as advertised. So that's why we recommend, I guess, limited deployment of these, and IT very engaged with the limited deployment. So browser-based apps, we've all heard of programs like the G Suite or Salesforce that kind of promise to fix all of your IT problems. And in many ways, they can make things much better. You know, they're easy for everybody. You know, everybody has a web browser on their computer, even if their computer is 10 years old. You know, it's a low barrier to entry. You know, it solves some of the printing challenges. But just like the Dropbox file sync programs, they often can be a handful to manage. And oftentimes, if you don't have dedicated IT staff that are looking at these things, you fall back to the same problems that you had with your in-office computers, not knowing who's in your system, losing files when there's employee turnover, not having a backup. These are all things that the web browser-based applications, you know, can fall victim to. Even though systems like G Suite, you know, promise a continuity of service, and they have, you know, worldwide data centers, that doesn't necessarily mean that if people don't, you know, delete files or download copies of files or not save them into the right container, that you aren't losing control of what's happening. So oftentimes people are disappointed with these if they're not really talking with their IT team and understanding how they're working and getting the right training and policies in place. But they are very, very powerful systems that I would recommend. So let's talk about how some of those web-based systems can really be turbocharged and you can work remotely. So SharePoint is one of those systems, G Suite is the other. And I think, Robbie, you were going to show us how you can scan directly into one of those web-based systems and save things right there so that people throughout the company can work from the same file.
Yeah, let me get my screen share going and I'll give you an example of that real quick, Ian.
Okay.
So here's an example of a SharePoint library I have. So if you're not familiar with SharePoint, SharePoint's really just a collaboration tool. Like Ian was saying, there's many different ones out there: Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, Dropbox, several of them in the marketplace. SharePoint is very good for teams, sharing documents or sharing calendars, being able to collaborate on tasks. The example I was going to show you today is on this one, we have a directory for HR. So HR has a couple different folders where they're storing and sharing content. And I want to show you a couple ways that we can bring this content directly into SharePoint, because that was what was on the last slide that Ian was showing, is scanning is typically not directly supported. So at Kyocera, we have a little bit of a different philosophy. We not only make hardware, so copiers, printers, fax machines, scanners, we also develop software. So I always ask folks, what do you like about your smartphone? And people say, oh, it's got my weather app or my stock market app or Pinterest or Facebook. They're always talking about some app that their phone has. They never say, oh, my phone, it makes great phone calls and that's why I love it. No, everyone does that pretty much the same. Similar in our industry. Everyone makes good copiers, printers, fax machines, whether it's Kyocera, Canon, Sharp, HP, Xerox. They all do essentially the same core thing. So we look at how can we make that a better mousetrap. And we do that through the applications. So I have this little notebook that I like to share, and I'll jump down, let's say page 7. We have a very entry-level app to scan directly to Dropbox, Google Drive, and Microsoft OneDrive. We have more advanced workflow scanning. That's a term Ian's used a lot today, is workflows, those consistent, repeatable processes. If I come down to the next page, I wanted to focus on 2 apps here, our Google Connector and our Microsoft Connector. So these applications allow us to scan directly at the device into these respective providers. So if you compare that with your traditional workflow process, I know most people are going to scan to their email address. Then they're going to walk away from the machine, come back to their desk, open their email application, open that email, say file, save with that attachment, and then store it maybe in a folder on their computer or store it into a cloud service. That's what I call a post-scan workflow. I scan the document, then I have to go do all these other steps somewhere else. What I like to do is flip that equation where you do things pre-scan. You tell me where to put the document. You tell me where to name the document so that when you press scan, that document goes to that location with that name and you're done with that process. So let me show you. Here's my machine at home. So this is just like you all are standing here with me in my home office today, looking at the panel of my device. I've got a document in the feeder already, and I want to store this in the Microsoft services. I want to store it in that SharePoint HR library I was showing you. So if I launch this utility, launch this application, I say, I want to connect to the Kyocera Document Solutions America SharePoint. I can either log in and then I'll see just the respective items that I have access to, or I can do what I call a quick login through a guest mode, which I'll do here just to make this easy. I see our different libraries. There's the HR one. When I select that, I see those exact folders that I had in my web browser. So Ian was talking about the benefit of these browser-based applications. Well, here I'm leveraging that same technology. So let's say I want to store the document just in what I call the root or primary directory. I touch scan. Optionally, I can change the file name. I'll back this one away real quick. I'll use one of my copier industry jokes. I always name the document Hope because I hope it works while I'm demoing it. There's not a lot of jokes in this industry, so I kind of have to take them where I can get them. So we press next. Here, I can change a couple properties about how we scan this. Maybe I want it to be in color versus monochrome, or maybe I want it to be a searchable PDF. We can set those types of options. Here, I'm going to press scan, and you may actually even hear the document's process. It's going through my feeder. It's going to return back to the library I was at, the HR one. And optionally, I could continue scanning more documents. In this case, I'm done. I'll exit it. Now, when I leave the device, I come back to my computer, or perhaps Ian, for instance, if he's at his home office and he logs into this SharePoint library, he now has access to this document. It was uploaded just a few seconds ago by me, but now it's available across our entire platform. I think Ian's colleague Blake is in New York. You got Blake and Trina over in Virginia. So that's a very simple way of demonstrating how I can scan a document at my machine and then it's available to everyone else in my organization. So that was a quick demo I wanted to show. I think Brian and Trina have some information about home office devices as well related to the Kyocera portfolio. And I think they're going to speak as well about some of the operating expense behind those. So let me stop my share and I'll turn it back over to you, Ian.
All right, thank you. Well, that was really powerful. And as I bring up the Kyocera line here, you know, what I was really impressed with seeing, and I've seen it really play out, is you know, when you talked about it perfectly, the post scan and the pre scan. That was so much simpler than getting it into the system with the wrong file name and the wrong location, and then having to search around in a box and try to upload each file to the right location. That can be such a pain.
Oh yeah, very good. Thank you.
And I've seen, I saw a doctor go back to school, and she had a 45-person medical practice in Charlottesville, and she had all of the financial stuff scanned in like that. And she was able to approve everything, see the payments, everything remotely. It can just be so powerful from working from home. So Brian, Trina, here are some of the equipment that you could get either for your office or for your home that would have those types of features here. Would you like to speak to any of the capabilities here?
Sure. We wanted to give both a mono and a color option. This is a black and white system, or mono only. And the big difference is we wanted to highlight as well, not just the capability, but the cost of ownership. All of us have seen, you can go to Amazon or Staples or even Walmart and buy a copier, an all-in-one now. The problem is, it's funny, I just looked at one the other week. It was $59 and your first ink cartridge cost $79. So it was actually more than the actual device to buy the supplies for it, where ours are just flipped around. They're commercial units designed to be serviced, designed to be maintained. Just like your car, you do oil changes, PM kits. So the longevity of the system is there. We talk to so many customers who buy those really inexpensive systems, and literally their refresh is to throw it away and buy another one. So we said there has to be a better way. So these are desktop systems that have what Robbie just showed you with DM Connect and the Microsoft connector already built in, and $65 a month. That's a 60-month lease to own option. So you own the product at the end of that lease. And that includes what Robbie showed you with the scanning. These are 42 page per minute, and then the color is 32 page a minute. And these are just a small piece of what we offer. These are desktop units, very economical. Most people we talk to are spending more than $70 or $80 just on supplies, where here you can have a commercial grade system with the solutions and software that Robbie discussed all built in. And Kyocera, the other thing I'll mention real quickly, you see on their color service, it's a 3-tier color. You don't just pay one price for color. Most people pay anywhere between 7 and 10 cents per color page. Kyocera bases it on how much color you use. And it saves literally, we have some customers saving over $2,000 a year on their color costs from the previous, we'll call it the old method of just a straight cost. So my email is there and our phone number. We realize this is a lot of information to take in, but if you email me, I'll be happy to send these flyers to you. We offer many other financing options as well as purchase, but we wanted to do just 2 packages so folks could see it is very inexpensive, very affordable to be able to do this in a remote office, even for multiple locations.
I know that we do some state contracting here at Eaton Computers, and we've had salespeople, you know, before we got them set up with the right technology, you know, they're coming to me with a receipt for, you know, over $74 a month for, you know, the UPS store for printing.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
You know, because they're like, well, I couldn't make the deadline with my home printer because it had all these lines all over the page and it just wasn't turning out. So, you know, I went to the UPS store or Staples, and it gets expensive fast.
And that's the other important thing to point out. The service that you see on the screen per page covers our on-site service, one of our 15 certified technicians showing up at your location to take care of any issues you might have. That's all included, as well as the supplies and toner for the system. So it's really a complete turnkey unit. All you have to do is add paper. Everything else is fully covered.
Nice. So then you don't have to send your IT team into your employees' homes. You guys are
Exactly. And this is just some of the, some of the points that we covered, commercial grade copier that we offer versus a big box store or Amazon type purchase. And the other one I didn't mention was most of those little tiny toner cartridges that you pop into your printer, you may get anywhere from 800 to 1500 pages if you're lucky. Most of ours, the smallest one is 6,000 pages, as you see here, up to 24,000 pages per toner cartridge, which means your cost per page is much less, and you don't have to have a closet full of supplies for popping those different colors in and those different cartridges when they run out just in the middle of a critical project. So again, all the points you see there are what make our units. They are more expensive up front, but as you saw, they're still very economical on a per month basis. So we just wanted to, throw that in there. And I'll mention one more thing because I always forget to. Kyocera has the best recycling program of any manufacturer. We can actually place a box. We can even put one in your home if you'd like, but in your place of business, you can throw any cartridge you want in there. It doesn't have to be Kyocera. Fold the flaps over, call UPS, and they come and pick it up. That's a service that Kyocera provides that is totally complimentary, no cost to you, but it saves the environment, recycles the cartridges, and you don't have to make a trip to Staples to do that.
Nice. So the last type of program that I want to talk about are web native based applications. So there's not a lot of these out there, but when you're talking about working from home, there's a lot of web browser based applications. I don't know if it's if you're experiencing the same things, but when I'm working from the web browser, I find that it's a lot easier to get distracted. It's a lot easier to close out what you're working on accidentally. You get 50 different tabs open and it's harder to navigate between what you're working on. So web native based apps really solve that. They're an icon on your desktop. They're an icon on your phone. And they integrate well with all of the things that we're talking about. We use one called Connectwise that is our line of business application. And you can see here, it has a web address, and you start running the application. It has a web address in the login prompt, where it just goes right out over the web, so you can be anywhere in the world and still get into the application securely. So that's really, if we're working with you in an advisory standpoint, we are always looking for these web native based applications versus the web browser one would be our preference. So then the last thing, sort of the Cadillac of all Cadillacs, it works with all of your legacy applications, would be a cloud hosted desktop as a service. So this way you can have your web-based apps, you can have your 30-year-old line of business applications or the really weird old ones, and they can all commingle and work together. You can work any way you want. Of course, the downside when it's the Cadillac is the price. So this really requires an IT vendor or an IT department to build out some pretty substantial infrastructure, like what we were showing in the Ian Computers offices before. You need to have that server room. You need to have a lot of good technology, or pay a very high monthly fee to somebody who does. But this is the way of taking anything and putting it in the cloud, very readily available to your remote workforce. So take the remote work readiness evaluation, see where you are. Feel free to reach out to us and we can help put together a plan to, no commitment for you on where you want to go with the remote workforce, brainstorm those types of things with you. So Trina, can you take us home?
And Ian, thank you so much, Robbie and Ian and all the guests today. From all of us at SVOE, Ian Computers and Kyocera, we want to again thank you for being here. Shenandoah Valley Office Equipment and Ian Computers are both local and privately owned companies. And we enjoyed providing custom solutions for your businesses and your home use. We have hands-on service and support that our competition cannot match. And please don't hesitate to contact me or Brian for any of the questions you have or the systems that we showed you today from Kyocera.
Trina, that was a good point that we're both locally owned as well, because there's been a lot of consolidation in our industry. So a lot of the big copier companies, you know, own the dealers, and you know they can't say with a straight face what Brian just said, that Kyocera has the best recycling program, because ultimately they're owned by Xerox or somebody like that.
Exactly. Right. Or the best service. I mean, I know I worked for you, Ian, for a good, year, and we have all techs and we're all humans and we're all here. So we can be there and we're out helping people. So I'm really looking forward to us partnering again.
Thank you, Trina. Well, let's open the floor. Are there any questions that folks have? Any slides that you'd like me to jump back to? Blake, you'll be working to distribute copies of the presentation today, is that right?
Yeah,
so
that's
you'll
right.
Send out a video recording?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Blake. Well, I think, let's see, there is a chat coming in. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us today. And we look forward to talking again soon.